You're listening to the 90 Days Later podcast with Anna Charles, episode 70. Welcome to the 90 Days Later podcast, where I show you how to stop over drinking in 90 days without missing out on life. If you're not an alcoholic, but fed up with saying yes to a drink when you mean to say no, you're in the right place. Today I'm covering a slightly prickly subject. Now, when planning this podcast, I could also have called it something like, when other people want you to keep on drinking, when your friends want you to keep drinking or don't want you to stop drinking, or something along those lines. But then I realized that's all about other people. And so I decided on the title, Well-Meaning Drink Pushers, right? Because that's how it so often felt to me. There was me, and I was sort of faced by this onslaught of people out there who were by and large friendly, and they wanted the best for me, I'm sure, or certainly wanted the best for themselves. And they were well-meaning. I mean, they weren't nasty people, but it kind of felt like they were pushing drinks on me. And so I think that title more aptly describes how it can feel to be in that position. And here's how it shows up. When I decided I was going to change my drinking, I didn't tell anyone. I mean, nobody. Now, I didn't really have either any specific targets. I just wanted to drink less. I speak about this quite a lot. I just wanted more control. And I was kind of waiting. I was just waiting for the point when somebody would start to notice. So I used to dread that moment in the evening when I would try and stop, because I would set myself a bit of an informal target. Remember, I didn't have the tools that I have today that I work with my clients on. I was just kind of figuring this out. And so there would come a point in the evening when I knew I had to say no, because that's what I had decided. And I would just kind of dread the whole vibe, right? I'd say no, and then I'd sort of wait for it. You could almost count back, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, here it comes. And oh, you're so boring. Why, Anna? Why aren't you I've got your favorite glass. Oh, okay, go on then. Yeah, I will. Right? So it was really quick. It was like I was kind of dipping my toe in the water of saying no. I'd say no, and then very quickly that no would turn to a yes. Why? Because part of me in that moment really wanted to. My clients tell me this. They say, I don't want this, but really? Really I did. And this happened at the time because I was really a bit shaky in my belief that I could change, and I was more than a bit shaky in just exactly what I wanted this to look like. Now, I knew it didn't matter, and this is what I say to people, it doesn't matter if you don't know how you want your future drinking self or non-drinking self to look like. It doesn't matter. But, it doesn't help that in that moment we might be feeling a little bit shaky in belief. Now, perhaps you can relate. I remember very clearly part of me not wanting to stop. And I remember, I remember there was a time quite a few Christmases ago, we used to go out to Christmas lunch with this other family we're very friendly with, and we'd had a lovely time. We'd been at this hotel restaurant all afternoon, and it was something like 6:30, and we're packing to go, and the children were grabbing their presents and stuff together. Me and the other mum, we put our coats on, and it was in the cold, so we had these thick, heavy overcoats on, and we're just sitting, near the hotel reception, or the tables being cleared. The children, our husbands are trying to figure out where the children are and so on. And the waiter says, "Would you like a glass of champagne?" All right, no, we paid the bill at this point. We're finished. We're in our coats. We are literally in our coats, ready to go. And we said, "Oh, go on then, we'll just have the one." Well, he opened a bottle, which was part of the trigger, I guess. He's opened a bottle. And this other lady and me, we proceeded to drink our way through another glass of Veuve Clicquot. a whole other bottle, We proceeded to drink our way through this whole other bottle of Veuve Clicquot in our overcoats. We didn't even take our overcoats off because we were leaving. So we were leaving, and yet was doing this. So this is where part of me didn't want to, and I think that's why I kept my coat on, but part of me clearly wanted to, and it's this mixed message that can feel very confusing. So I get it. So before I get into how to handle situations where you're in the company of the well-meaning drink pushers in your life, let me start by saying that people are going to have opinions on your drinking. They're just going to have them. A couple of the most common things I hear is, or people hear is, they might say, "Go on, you're fine. You're making so much of a fuss. What on earth are you going on about? You're drinking less? You're fine. You drink less than me. Are you saying that I've got a problem?" And then others compile in, right? Other people around. "Oh, she's not drinking anymore. She's gone teetotal. Yeah, she's total bore. We're still trying to convince her, change her mind, come back with us, have a lot of fun." Right? It can feel like you're in the spotlight. That's one approach I see very commonly. And on the other end of the spectrum is kind of a serious, "Oh, I'm glad you're taking action." Right? There might be people out there who say, "Well, I was a bit worried about you, and I'm glad you're seeing sense. I was thinking about speaking about it to you, and in the past, I have actually said I've tried to not have you drink so much." Right? So you think, "Oh my goodness, what have they been thinking about me?" So we have these thoughts about this, and I remember finding all of these opinions quite hard to navigate. But really think about it. People are going to have opinions on everything, right? They'll have opinions on your car, the tiles in your bathroom, your choice of husband or wife, the curry you served at the last dinner party, the heat of the curry you served at the last dinner party, your children, the shade of yellow of your new dress, your job, everything. So of course they're going to have opinions on your drinking. Now, the thing with people and their opinions is that some they share and some they don't. We can't stop them having them, and we can't stop them sharing them. But what I find differs with drinking is how actually forthright people feel that they can be with their opinions on our drinking, on other people's drinking. And secondly, what I find differs with drinking, however, on people's opinions is firstly how forthright they feel they can be about their opinions on your drinking. That's the first thing that I notice. And secondly, is our reaction to their opinions. All right, let me explain what I mean by that. Let me give you an example. Let's say you invite your friends over and you cook them dinner. Now, normally, I find happens is whether they like what you cooked or not, most times, in polite company, remember we're talking about these same people, they would thank you for the delicious dinner and they'd leave it at that. Now, if they really liked it, they might wax lyrical on it. If they really hated it, they might just say, "Thank you, it's very kind of you for cooking." Right? They're unlikely to say something like, "Why did you change the way you cook potatoes, Anna? You used to be so good at that, but now what's this way you're doing it now? I'm not sure what I think about that. Does that mean that we're not going to be able to enjoy dinner together anymore?" Right? That's really going to affect the time we spend together. Now, firstly, they're unlikely to say that. I'm going to comment on your potatoes in that way. And, if you don't cook potatoes, put in, tomatoes, rice, whatever that applies to you. But even if they did, how would we react to that? We'd probably raise our eyebrows and wonder what on earth has got into them. We most probably wouldn't go off and completely change how you cook potatoes. You probably wouldn't query your ability to cook, and you wouldn't query how that's going to affect your friendship. You wouldn't fret over what it means about you as a person and your connection with that person, right? Wouldn't do it. It's laughable. But now replace potatoes with wine or any alcohol of your choice. First, people do feel able to speak up and comment on your drinking. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to basically give pretty much the same script I just did with potatoes, but I'm going to be talking about drinking and wine instead. Why did you change the way you're drinking? You used to be so good in company, but now look at the way you're doing it. I'm not sure what I think about you anymore. Does that mean we're not going to be able to enjoy our time together? This is going to really affect the time we spend together in our connection. So firstly, they feel justified in saying that, and then consider how you react to that. We might think, maybe they're right. Maybe I am more boring now. Or maybe we feel affronted, or we get angry, or we give up and then we go straight back to the behavior we wanted to change in the first place. Right? We might end up feeling kind of defensive. I was trying to do it because I was trying to be the right person. But net, we hear what they say and we take it as an instruction or as an insult when it comes to alcohol. So that's what happens when people express an opinion over your drinking. And it may just be a one-off here or there, right, as you're starting to make changes, but these pockets of behavior will happen. That's one thing. But then what happens is people really start to connect the dots. And I say to my clients, there comes a moment when their friend's antenna are up. It's like they start to watch out for what's going on with you and your drinking. Now, not everybody does this, but at some stage you're likely to experience this, right? So I want you just to be super experienced, so I wanted to cover it. They might say things like, you didn't drink last night, did you? Or last Friday, come to think of it. And what about Saturday? No. Does this mean that you're actually serious about this? You're actually going to go through with this less drinking thing. But what's that going to mean for me? Does this mean I'm not going to have as much fun with you anymore? Does it mean you're not going to buy me wine anymore? Does it mean I'm not going to be able to drink when we go out? Oh my goodness, right? Does it mean you're going to make me drink less? It's all about them. It's all about the thoughts they're having about your actions. Guaranteed, they won't see it that way. But I do just want you to notice what's happening in these situations, right? Regardless of what the other person's opinion is, if we take note of this and we respond to this and we change our behavior based on this, we're being outwardly focused. Whether we're being defensive and trying to explain our actions or trying to convince people that why we're doing what it is a good idea, or whether we're trying to reassure them, no, it will have no impact on you. You can still buy your wine. I'm not going to make you go teetotal. There's horrible labels. We sort of go out of our way to prove it to them, right? We sort of just want to reassure them, maybe a little bit too much, and it's all outward focused. And actually what's happening is you're actually falling into agreeing with them that what matters most is their opinion. But I want to pause here and ask, whose opinion counts more, theirs or yours? Now notice here I'm not saying who's right and who's wrong. This is about paying attention to whose opinion counts more to you. Does your opinion count more to you, or does their opinion count more to you? Now, often when asked this direct question, people will say, "Well, I count. My opinion counts more to me, right?" Because we understand that's maybe because we feel that's the right answer to give. See what I did there? But here's something else that I see. People come to me worried because of this or that statistic. Maybe there's a government statistic, or there's a number of units thing, or this doctor said this, or this friend said this, or whatever, about they should be drinking. And how does that apply to them? And they want me to respond to that and tell them what I think and what they should do. They ask, should they be changing what they drink? They say things like, should I be making this change because of what I'm reading? But then it's clear that they're confused by what they're reading, and they ask me, what do I think that they should do? Now, when it comes to all of this guidance, there's a lot of good stuff out there. Look to, if you find it useful and helpful, then by all means use it, right? But I want to offer that you actually don't need any of that to make a decision about your drinking. You don't need a reason. You don't need any reason to change your drinking. Because a lot of the time, some of this reasoning gets in our way, right? Because then we start to say, well, if it's 5 that's safe, or is it 6 that's safe, and what should I, right? And we start to get into this and just over-analysis. So you don't need a reason, and also you don't need anyone else's buy-in to what you're doing here. You can just decide. And here's the power in this. To change the habit, to change any habit, to change the habit of drinking, to change your relationship with alcohol in a way it's going to stick, is actually not about the drinking at all. Right? The action of drinking is just something that happens based on what's happening inside of you, based on what you're thinking about it. So you can just decide to do this because you can, for no other reason than because you can. And I want you to just sit with that for a moment and see the power that is within you right now. You can make the call all on your own, whether you're going to carry on drinking, drink less, or give up, or whatever flavor you want. That doesn't mean that I'm saying that you have to ignore everybody else or all the government guidance. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that you get to make this decision on your own. This is so important because so often in our lives we do seek others' opinions because it can be helpful, or because there's agreement, or because it's expected, right? At work, for instance, you're working in a team. We have different levels of decision making that goes on there. Anything to do with the family, or you're parenting, you co-parent, you're doing it in conjunction with your spouse. You probably have some agreements as to what we're going to do. I mean, we're not going to go off piece. This is how we're going to be. Have solidarity, right? This is how we're going to do it. But when it comes to your drinking, that's on you. It's all up to you. It's delicious. 100% control. And you can do that in total peace. And I really want you to go to peace. I want you to imagine what it would be like to be at peace with the decisions that you make around your drinking. To be at peace with this so much that you have your own back, that you're deciding this for yourself for no other reason than you want to. Now, how does that feel? Right, when you put in a group and they're all kind of egging you on, you're surrounded by your very favorite, well-meaning drink pushers. And how does it feel then to put yourself in that moment, to know that in that chaos around you and all the that's going on, you can actually create an oasis of peace in your brain. You can go back to what you've decided for yourself and to be okay with that. You don't need to double think. You don't need to question yourself. You don't need to seek anybody else's permission but your own. So then in that moment, how would you then act? How would you act if you wouldn't feel the need to defend yourself or explain yourself or hide from others or anything else? Because you've got you. Because you're deciding the thoughts you want to live by when it comes to alcohol. You're deciding what kind of life you want to create on purpose. Here's another offshoot, another great thing that happens in your broader life when you do this. You start to rely on yourself. You start to trust yourself. It can be a bit of an aha moment. Yeah, I am capable of this. Because so often in our life, there are people to run things by, or we can go online and search for assistance, or what should I do, or what's best for me. Or you can even listen to a podcast and they can say one thing, but still you get to decide, right? You still need to decide. And when you can trust yourself to decide, and trust yourself to decide what's best for you, and to be happy with that, even when things don't turn out the way you want, that's a beautiful thing, right? Because I'm not saying here necessarily that everything will go right and there'll be no problems. It just means backing yourself and living with the consequences and not judging yourself. It's when you see so much about how you are changing, and how your life just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I remember years ago when we were in Costa Rica, and we were out driving, and the roads were quite challenging. Yes, this is another driving story. I talk about driving a lot. This time, at least, it's not to do with parking. Anyway, so we were in Costa Rica, and I didn't do much driving. I'm not much of a fan of driving. Anyway, and so the roads were a bit challenging, so I didn't do it by and large. And then there's this one day I said, okay, it looks good, and I'm going to drive. And we sort of pretty much figured out this is going to be, this will be quote unquote easy. It turned into the worst road conditions we had in the country. I am talking such a heavily rutted road that we were, the vehicle was going from side to side. I mean, deep ruts. And it was very bouncy, and we're carrying on. And basically the moment I turned the corner into this road, I had to then keep going. It's one of those situations where you just have to do it. I couldn't stop. If I had stopped and changed places with my husband, we would have got stuck, right? So I just had to man up, woman up, whatever, and get on and do it. And just to back myself to do it, I didn't actually have time to be scared. I didn't have time to back out. It was clear what the situation was. I've just got to do it. I just had to commit, and I had to trust in myself, and I did, and it was fine. And I think so often when we get to these situations with drinking, what am I going to do? How it's going to be so hard. I think when we can look to ourselves and commit to ourselves and trust ourselves and have our own back and say, I'm going to feel the fear and I'm going to do it anyway. That's when you feel alive, and that's when you start to see what you're capable of. It's such a powerful experience. It feels like nothing anyone will say will dent or deflect you from your purpose. How do you do this? All you have to do is to decide. So I want you to decide right now, what do you want to believe for yourself? You can ask yourself questions to flush this out. Do I like what I'm doing? Am I happy with the decisions that I'm making? Am I getting the results in life that I want? If not, why not? And it doesn't matter what other people think. They may have different opinions, and okay, it's fair enough. Doesn't mean that you're making the wrong choice if what you decide is different to what they want. It doesn't mean they're wrong either. It just means you have different thoughts and different approaches. So you get to decide for you, total freedom. And know that you're not wedded to those decisions. You can decide on purpose and give it your all, but that doesn't mean you have to decide that thing once and that's it for the rest of your life. You can change your mind. I spoke about this a little bit last week, right? When people say they want to moderate, but they end up going for pretty much zero alcohol. It's because they started to see what was possible. Their mind shifted. They started to see a whole new horizon. But whatever decision you make, at some point you do have to decide what set of thoughts you're going to live by, so that when you are faced with and live with well-meaning drink pushers, you know your own mind. You know what you want for you, and then whatever relationship you want to have with alcohol, you have decided first to have your own back. So powerful. Thank you for listening. And if you want help with this, if you think, but Anna, my circumstance is that I am surrounded by these people. It's just too much. Want my help? I can help. Go and book a call with me. It's free. Go to 90dayslater.co, click on the big blue button. It's free. We'll talk about where you are, where you want to be, and I will make for you the exact plan to get you there. Whether you decide to go ahead and feel the fear and make the change, it will feel like fear to change your drinking. It's up to you, but at least you will know what's getting in your way. All right, that's it for now, and I will see you next week. If you like what you're learning in the podcast and you want to take the work further and achieve total freedom around alcohol, let's talk. I help my clients stop reaching for that first glass of wine the moment 6 p.m. rolls around and they don't miss out on life. And we do it in 90 days. The effect is permanent. Email me for more information on anna@90dayslater.co. And if you did enjoy the show, I'd really appreciate if you'd leave a rating and review to help others find the 90 Days Later podcast.